I'm going to get into some very kind of more Quotivity examples inside of HubSpot here to show kind of the power of the tool. And then we'll get into that NetSuite example where we use that dynamic cost that Andrew updated earlier and do a calculated pricing margin on that cost to show how we present this to the customer. So in terms of our rules and approvals here, so when you guys are ready to build a quote, you're going to use our object here and click the create new quote button. Now, I'll start with a very simple example. Let's say we're selling some enterprise software. And Max, like I don't know how many sales reps you've probably ever dealt with in your life, but when they sell
lot.
when they sell certain solutions, right? We want to make sure that we're selling the right products with it, right? So when we're doing a certain, maybe an enterprise sale of an enterprise product that we sell, we always want to sell, for example, onboarding with it. And sales reps want to do everything in their power to not sell onboarding. But with Quotivity, when you add an enterprise product, we can enforce another product to be sold with it, like onboarding, for example. So as you can see, when I add that enterprise quote, onboarding is completely added to the quote already for the sales rep. And we're calculating that onboarding fee based on a calculated formula where we're taking the total amount of software on the quote and we're multiplying it by a factor to get to our onboarding net price for this specific customer. Now, if I was to remove this onboarding fee, you'll see that Quotivity is going to block me. And we want to enforce that onboarding is always sold with our enterprise products, right? Mm-hmm. So I hear this all the time in HubSpot where my sales reps forgot to sell this and forgot to sell that. And, these clients are expecting that onboarding. When you don't sell and charge for it, now you're going to have to renege expectations, readjust the quote, or just create that very non-linear experience with your customers that just start with frustration when you're getting into a new sale. How many times have you heard that, Max? Like in all the sales orgs you've ever worked in?
Yeah. And I think something like interesting about this example that you're showing here is like, how does this tie back to NetSuite, right? Well, let's remember that NetSuite integration, whether you're doing something custom built or you're using just the native one out of the box, right? That basic like field mapping, like that data sync is really important in examples like this, because let's say you're creating like a new product inside of NetSuite and it's a product that requires onboarding. Well, you could simply just have a field that says requires onboarding and have it be like a Boolean checkbox, right? And just build that inside of NetSuite. When that syncs over into HubSpot, what's happening here is we have a rule that we're looking at to see if the product requires onboarding. And then we're applying this onboarding thing automatically, right? So you could already have this stuff set up inside of HubSpot. And you've got finance person in NetSuite who's kind of like oblivious to all this, goes, here's the product, here's the price I'm setting. And yes, it requires onboarding. And because of that sync, this rule can still work, right? So they're playing together very nicely, even though they may not know the other thing exists, which is really cool. It's the power of HubSpot as the universal translator here. Yeah,
absolutely. And just to highlight this onboarding fee, now when we add to the quote, you see it's going to be a dynamic onboarding fee, right? So it's taking the amount of software products on the quote, totaling them, and then running that calculated formula to get onboarding, right? So if I was to add maybe another software product, like for example, our professional grade AI enforcer, you'll see that onboarding fee increase based on the new product I just added to the quote. And again, as I keep adding products to the quote, that onboarding fee is going to increase as I add those products to the quote. So we can create dynamic onboarding fees where we run custom calculations based on the products your customers are purchasing, so on and so forth. So one thing, we enforce the product, and we can also calculate the product for the sales rep. So everything, we always know that we're selling the right products for the right price every single time.